Welcome to Football with Cheese. So in this video, we're going to talk about Lukas Van Ness and the Packers' decision whether to pick up his fifth-year option. If you did not know, he was a first-round pick in the 2023 season, 13th overall. It was a major shock at the time. Almost everyone expected him to take Jackson Smith-Njigba. Tony Pauline, who covers the NFL, covers the draft, reported that is their guy. They're going to take him if he's there. I wanted Chris Gonzalez, the cornerback from Oregon, who is one of the best corners in the NFL for New England. Jackson Smith-Njigba just got 4 years, $168 million contract, one of the best receivers in the NFL, goes to the Seahawks. And Brian Gutekunst drafts Lukas Van Ness, edge rusher from Iowa. What a disaster that has been compared to those other two guys. But first, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notification so you never miss one of my videos. We are 30 days out for the NFL draft. If you want draft content, this is the channel for you, so make sure you do subscribe. Okay, so Lukas Van Ness, once again, first round pick in 2023, huge surprise. I'm still mad about it, obviously, and his rookie year was awful. He had a 5.3% pressure rate, which means about 1 in every 20 pass rush snaps he got a pressure, which was one of the worst in the NFL. 10% is horrible for an edge rusher. Second year, 8.9%. And I remember when he was drafted, and I was watching ESPN, Mel Kiper Jr. is breaking it down, and he says the thing I absolutely hate. Well, if everything works out, maybe he can be Nick Bosa, because they're both really good athletes, similar size. If it all works out, here's the problem. Nick Bosa was a terrific college football player. Lukas Van Ness was never good in college. Every time he got a sack or made a play, he was just more athletic than the person trying to block him. He does not have any pass rush moves. I remember watching him in Iowa. I'm like, when's he going to do a move? For some reason, he just isn't very good at pass rush moves. And when he tries to do them in the NFL, he fails miserably. So when he does get a pressure, it's usually because of effort and because he's more athletic than the offensive lineman trying to block him. Now, this year, he only played about half the games. He was injured. He had a 15.3% pressure rate, which is good. It's not great, but it's good, okay? So all these Packer writers are saying, look at the development. Look at this. He's getting better and better every year. See, he's a good player. See, he was a good first-round pick, because they shill for Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM. Of course they do. Everything is gumdrop smiles and rainbows when it comes to his picks. They will not criticize a single bad draft pick he has made. No mention of Chris Gonzalez or Jackson Smith-Njigba from any of the Packer beat writers. None. They act like this is a great pick and they should absolutely pick up the fifth-year option. But if you look closer, here's the problem with Lukas Van Ness. He did all his damage against some of the worst offensive tackles in the NFL. His best games were against the Browns. They didn't have a left tackle worth a crap. The Bears twice. They don't have a good left tackle. And Dallas, who has Tyler Guyton, one of the worst left tackles in the NFL. When he has big games, when he gets pressures, it's against guys that aren't very good. And Lukas Van Ness can use his athleticism to make a play. Now, he is a good run defender. He always has been. I like Lukas Van Ness. He's a good dude who gives effort and is a good run defender. That's another thing I hated his first 2 years in the league. Well, maybe his pass rush isn't there yet, but he's a good run defender, so it's okay. He's a really good run defender because that's what fans care about, a good run defending edge rusher. Your job is to rush the passer. If you're a good run defender as well, that's a plus. So he might grade out analytically better than he should because he's a good run defender. But I was looking at PFF, for example. He graded out as the 25th best player at edge rusher, according to PFF. PFF is garbage. If you watch all my videos, you know I can't stand PFF, especially when it comes to defense. There is no way Lukas Van Ness is anywhere near to the 25th best edge rusher in the NFL. In fact, he's probably closer to 50, which is league average. That's basically what he is. He sucked his first 2 years, and now he's league average, so let's just give him $15 million, because the fifth-year option is somewhere between $15 and $15.5 million, which would be insane for a player that has 8.5 sacks in 3 seasons. Not joking. Not 8.5 sacks in each year. 8.5 sacks total in 3 seasons. which is horrible. He's not getting the quarterback enough. He's not getting him down enough. And it was a small sample this year. He did improve. But 8.5 sacks in 3 seasons is garbage. So here is some players that PFF says is worse than Lukas Van Ness. Odafe Oweh just signed a big contract with the Commanders. Much better than Van Ness. Abdul Carter, give me a break. Rookie from the Giants. Those guys are much better pass rushers than Lukas Van Ness. Jalen Phillips is behind Lukas Van Ness. Just signed with the Panthers. Josh Sweat, Arizona, who, by the way, Packers should trade for. The rumor is he wants out of Arizona. He excelled last year in Jonathan Gannon's defense and a much better player than Lukas Van Ness, hitting his prime right now. And finally, TJ Watt is behind Lukas Van Ness. I got to close this. I cannot take PFF seriously. So basically, Lukas Van Ness only does his damage against bad left tackles and with effort and athleticism, not with pass rush moves. And he's not consistent. If he goes against some really good left tackle, he will disappear the entire game. You will not hear his name. Not at all. And my prediction is they will pick up the option. I think it's 99% chance. And here's why. Brian Gutekunst doesn't want to admit that it was a bad pick, that he's a first-round bust. Look, if Lukas Van Ness is a 3rd or 4th round pick, then it was a good pick. Solid pick, right? But you used a 13th overall pick on a guy who has 8.5 sacks in 3 seasons. So Brian Gutekunst doesn't want to admit he's wrong. So he's going to pick up the option and will limit their cap space next year. I know they're in good shape, but still, that's a lot of money, $15 million that you could spend extending someone or signing a free agent, somebody better than Lukas Van Ness. And if he was so good, then why did you trade for Micah Parsons? If you hit on Lukas Van Ness, if he turns out to be Nick Bosa, then guess what? You don't trade for Micah Parsons. You have your next 2 first-round picks because you don't need to. The fact that they traded for Micah Parsons told me everything I want to know, that Lukas Van Ness was a bust. And he is a bust. And all the Packer writers, when they do pick up the option, are going to say, great move. This is so good for the Packers. Goody nails it again. But once again, he is an average player in this league. He's an above-average run defender, and he only gets pass rush snaps against the worst left tackles. And when he went up against Laramie Tunsil, Washington, did nothing in the game. Went against Garrett Bowles, Denver, did nothing in that game. My first-round pick, the 13th overall, needs to be able to get some pressure on some of the best left tackles in the NFL, and Lukas Van Ness cannot do it. I would absolutely decline this 5th-year option. In fact, I would shop him before the draft. Maybe I can get a draft pick for him. Maybe offer him and a late-round pick for Josh Sweat, because they need to upgrade that position opposite Micah Parsons. Obviously, Rashawn Gary was traded. He was garbage this year. But Lukas Van Ness, he's just not good enough to be a number 2 edge rusher. To me, he should have been a 3rd or 4th round pick. Before analytics, he would have been a mid-round pick because his production was just not there in college. Terrible pick for Brian Gutekunst yet again. Since he drafted Jordan Love in 2020, he has not hit on a first-round pick. We'll see what happens with Matthew Golden. I think Jordan Morgan's going to be an absolute disaster at left tackle this year. So let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me? I would absolutely decline this, but I know he'll pick it up. Let's be honest. Brian Gutekunst picked up a 5th-year option on Darnell Savage, the worst safety in Packer history. So if he picked it up on Darnell Savage, guaranteed he's going to pick it up for Lukas Van Ness, and it would be a huge mistake in my opinion, because that $15.5 million, whatever it is, will be guaranteed in the 2027 season. So once again, let me know in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. Share this with anyone who loves football. I'll cover all 32 teams on this channel. Me and Mike, we do the Lights Out podcast every Tuesday night, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Link in the description. Check out this video if you have not, and I will see you in the next one.